Oh, well, welcome back to Red Shoes Diary. I hope you've had an incredible week. Good day. I hope that wherever you're at, you're happy, warm, fat, and sassy. Hopefully you're smiling. Where you just woke up, where you fix to go to bed, wherever you're at, whatever's going on in your life. I hope it's been a good one. Been a pretty good week here. As usual, it's springtime, so we've had rain off and on, and weather's up to 80, and got up this morning in the 50s, so back to a light jacket. Freezing morning, burn up by the evening. I think they're yelling for more rain by the end of the week, so well, the good Lord's got plenty. It'll be all right, I reckon. Yeah, just sit around. Who knows? We liable to get a snowstorm. It never changes around here. It's always that way. You don't know what to expect. So you just do what you can do and you carry on with it. But had a good morning. I went to church down in the holler. Good preaching, good singing, fellowship, whatever. But I just talk about things and stuff. I told this, and it's still on my mind. Back early this week, we had a cemetery meeting. I belong to a group that oversees a local. It's a public cemetery, but most of my family's buried there on both sides, mom and dad's side, and brothers and different ones. And so where my dad passed, they just sort of put me on the committee, so I'm part of it. But we sitting up there, and one of the gentlemen, he's around 80, maybe even better. And he told me, he said, "Now I want to tell you something." And I'd heard it, but I forgot about him talking about it. He said, "I can hear your papa, Herbert," which was my dad's dad, coming through the church house down there when I was 5 years old. He said, "I was sitting up on that front porch pew of that church, and I can still hear your papa coming through," and said he'd be a testifying as he come through the door. And said he was be talking about, I've been talking to my sweet Lord. He said that affected me. At 5 years old, whatever that man had going on with the Lord, whatever that was, had to be my sweet Lord. He said, I want part of that. That got me started. And I got to thinking about that, how that's probably 75 years ago. That was before I was even born. And probably even before it's before my mom, my sisters and stuff, brothers and sisters all born. That was a long time ago. But that happened 75 years ago, and it still affects the man to this day. And that papa of mine there, when he passed away in 81, he was the first person I was a pallbearer for. And in that time, since that day, I've carried most of the family. And I think I figured up somewhere around like 25 or 27 people I've carried to the grave. And that's been a blessing, that people entrust you to be a pallbearer for the family and do something for them in that way. I consider that a blessing to be able to do it, and people want you to do it. And so before he passed away, he's in the hospital. Congestive heart failure, heart failing and stuff. Now, I never went to church with my papa because time I came along, he'd had a heart attack. And at that time, and that was probably early 60s, they told him they didn't want him to go back to church because he got so excited. And they was afraid he'd get so excited he'd have another heart attack. Back in the days, they didn't have a lot of the med stuff they do now. I've had 5 stents put in my heart, triple bypass 3 years ago this May. I'm on a few drugs for it, not a whole lot, but a couple. That's how come I'm able to keep moving, keep going, keep doing. But in the time they didn't, and a lot of other stuff, they'd come up with a lot of new stuff. But I can remember going in down there on Sundays. LAM radio. There's a local radio station. Time it was 12:40. I think they changed the thing to 12:50 now. But he'd sit there by that old radio, White Philco or General Electric. Had an old rocking chair there, and he'd sit there like this. And he'd sit and he'd rock back and forth. So he listened to preachers. And that's how he does preaching. He listens to the service. And it always, they certain ones he listened to, and they some he didn't just abide by, so he didn't listen to. But on that, just a day before he passed away, he's in the hospital, went and seen him. And he was telling me, he said, now, I went up on the ridge up there. He said, of course, I talked to my Lord, and he said, I picked up some Billy Brown apples. He said, I had me a 5-gallon bucket coming back down off the ridge. And he said, it hit me. He said, I just kept saying, he said, and I know Shirley liked them, which was my mama. And I was wanting to get them off for her, because I know she liked them Billy Brown apples. And he said, it hit me pretty hard. And I didn't know if I was going to make it. But he said, I said, Lord, please just give me strength. Just let me get down to the gate down there and get these apples down there. Lord, just give me the strength. Help me, Lord. And he said, I got down that gate finally. He said, Lord, give me strength. I made it. He said, then I hollered at Easter, which her given name was Esther, my mama, but Papa always called her Easter. And that's when they come, she come to me too, and they had to call the ambulance stuff, taking things. But the preacher at his funeral that time, he said, now, he remembered him coming through the door, and he'd be saying, now, I've been up on the ridge talking to my Lord. So he said that more than once. He said, so that man right laying here had a personal relationship with the Lord. That's what he said, my Lord. And the man said, yo, my sweet Lord. And that's the testimony of that. And touched me in a way that, here I am telling this story probably 75 years ago when this happened, which was passed down to me from the man it happened to, about my papa. So when my granddaughter, as she gets older, a few years, and where she can understand more, I'll tell her about that. I'll tell her a story about her great papa going in the church, testifying, and affected little old feller 5 years old. And maybe one day she'll tell her granddaughter, and tell her granddaughter that her great grandpa told her story about her great grandpa. I believe that's right. Amount of greats. I might be wrong. It might be 4. I guess 4 greats in there. Great grandpa. But the thing of it is, folks, you never know how you act, what you do. You don't know who's watching. Maybe your testimony or the way you conduct yourself will affect a young person, a little 5-year-old kid, you don't know. But then again, it might be a 50-year-old person. Maybe they ain't never found the good Lord or don't know much about it. But maybe your testimony, or maybe just the way you conduct yourself. Maybe you learned that over the years you've mellowed out. You tried to be more mellow. Humble, as a good book says. And about a man. Women folk about how they conduct themselves. And all. And you don't know who's watching. It might be your neighbors. It might be your people you work with. As a matter of fact, it could be your own children. They're watching how you conduct yourself. Are you praying to the good Lord? Do you have faith in Him? It might be your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren that's watching. And it could be some friends, some of your kids, their friends watching how you conduct yourself. And know something's different just because of the way you act, folks. But that was on my mind, and I talked to it about that down there at the church and spoke about it. And it's still there, so that's the reason I'm speaking about it today. Folks, you never know who's watching you. Never know who's listening. And you never know how that's going to affect somebody. So pray it wherever you're at, whatever you're doing it. You remember that. Or you let loose 47 cuss words make a sailor's face turn blue. Maybe you hold that in. Maybe before you blow angry and turn loose on somebody, take a little chance to backstep a little bit, humble yourself a little bit, count to 10 or 20. Some of you might need to count to 60, give yourself a whole minute before you blow. Sometimes what happens to us is something simple. It's just a simple misunderstanding, folks. Maybe it don't require such explosive behavior. I don't know. I ain't got no answers for that, folks. That's up to you. But I am thankful for each and every day. Thankful to be here. Thankful for all it is the good Lord's done for me. I started to do this up on the ridge, but the wind got to blowing pretty hard. Wasn't so sure you could hear. So hopefully, though, pretty soon, weather blows through and be some pretty nice days. I go back, set up in the woods, or maybe I'll take my little trip and some of these national parks, state parks around. Maybe there's some pretty places there to do a little filming. I don't know. Just where the good Lord leads, I reckon. Anyway, been a good day. I hope you have a good day. I hope it's a blessing to you, whatever. Hope it affects you in a way that makes you stop, think, and talk to the good Lord. Because trust me, I ain't got no answers, folks. I have come to understand, me and a friend was talking about lately. Older I get, less I realize I understand, less I know. He started laughing. He's more like a father figure to me in a lot of ways. Neighbor over by the farm. He goes, well, and he's around 80 himself or so. He goes, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because that's exactly what I was thinking about my own self the other day. I don't think I've got less sense as I've gotten older. Anyway, folks, have a good day. Have a good week. I hope that wherever you're at, it'll be hot and sunny, warm and mild, or whatever kind of weather you're looking for. I hope you're healthy, and maybe you can help somebody out there with, that might be just a simple kind word. Doesn't matter. You know what you need better than I do. And as always, folks, I hope the good Lord takes a liking to you, but not too soon. And also.